Brazil President Lula da Silva will be in China from Tuesday to Friday this week. Beyond bilateral relations, the top focus of this visit is expected to be trade investment cooperation as well under China's Belt and Road Initiative. The meeting will also talk about joint mediation efforts over the Ukraine crisis. Brazilian officials have said the main goal of the visit is to diversify the country's trade relations with China. Beijing is Brazil's largest consumer for its exports, which mainly consists of soybeans and iron ore. More than 20 deals are expected to be signed, covering areas such as health, agriculture, education, finance, industry, science, and technology. Extend that to the currency for trade. A China-Brazil deal announced last month said trade between the two sides will be settled in their own currencies. With this, the two nations dished the U.S. dollar as an intermediary. Brazil has already begun to accept trade settlements and investments in the yuan. At the upcoming meeting, the two nations are expected to increase their efforts to de-dollarize their economies. Xi and Lula are expected to discuss the war in Ukraine in the wake of the Chinese president's Moscow visit last month. Lula has repeatedly expressed his willingness to serve as a mediator. According to a Financial Times report, the Brazilian president will propose, quote, a peace club with China to mediate an end to the war in Ukraine. President Lula's idea of a peace club is expected to bring more neutral countries to cooperate on mediation. While Lula's China trip, Brazil is expected to formally join China's Belt and Road Initiative. If an agreement for the same is inked, there will be 22 Latin American countries formally in the China-proposed initiative. Back in 2022, Argentina signed a memorandum of understanding on cooperation within the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative. If Brazil joins the initiative this time, it means that the BRI has effectively covered the major parts of South American countries. Okay, for more on this, we are joined by Elizabeth Loris. She's joining us live from Washington, D.C. She is an adjunct fellow in Pacific Forum and president of E. Loris Consulting. Elizabeth, welcome back to WION. A South American nation in the immediate vicinity of the United States has agreed to move out of the dollar regime, so to say, to trade with China. Is the power of the dollar slipping?
We have seen some slippage. I'm a bit skeptical that it is slipping very much. If you just want to talk about the Brazilian case, although Brazil's major trading partner is China, and they have agreed to engage in trade by yuan, 80% of Brazil's foreign currency is still US dollars. And worldwide, around 55% of global savings and foreign currency is in US dollars. Now, that is down from around 69% about 15 years ago. But we see some slippage, but that slippage is very slow. What's going on in the Brazilian case is actually two things. It's the value of the dollar. The dollar is very strong now. That is, relative to other currencies worldwide, it has appreciated. So it is expensive to buy. When China and Brazil do trade, if they do trade in US dollars, they have to use their own currencies to buy US dollars and then exchange. So that is expensive because their currencies relative to the US dollar are weak. So they have to buy expensive US dollars in which to do trade. So they're saying, let's cut out that third party, which is the US dollar, and just use the yuan. The other issue going on is US and foreign sanctions against Russia and other countries that support Russia, I should say perhaps other entities and maybe other countries that support Russia in its war against Ukraine. Those sanctions have frozen Russian assets in banks and makes it difficult to move the Russian ruble around. And so Xi Jinping in China and other authoritarian leaders are seeing this and saying, this could come to us. So if we want to be able to move our own currencies around, we cannot be trading them for US dollars. Let's create a system where other countries perhaps adopt the yuan, and so we can trade amongst each other.
Also on the agenda is possible peace mediations between Ukraine and Russia after France. Brazil is now cozying up to China as peacemaker in that war. What does this mean for America's position in the world?
I don't see Brazil's participation in any type of mediation regarding Ukraine a threat to the United States. Brazil has never been a big player in international relations. One area that Brazil has some power, perhaps, is as a major party in the BRICS. That is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and at some point it was South Africa, perhaps. That is where Brazil might have some influence. You know, the BRICS created the new development bank as a bank to be an alternative to the Western dominated, as Washington dominated IMF and World Bank. And interestingly, on April 14th, former Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff, remember, she was vice president to Lula, and then she was president. She is going to be inaugurated as the head of that new development bank. So I see Brazil having more influence there. That is in regarding financial transactions, trade, development, as you mentioned, BRI in Latin America, much more than being any realistic mediating party in the Russia-Ukraine war.
Elizabeth Loris, thank you so much for that insight, and we look forward to speaking to you again from Washington, D.C. very soon.
You're welcome.